But, of course, first yesterday. I mean, what a yesterday and this morning, what a 24 hours, less than 24 hours, of legacy head coaches parting ways with their team. First yesterday, about, I don't know, it was an hour and a half after we left here, the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll agreed to part ways. I will call it a gentle firing, Kelley. I will go with a gentle firing.
Yeah, I think that is a good phrase for it. Yep.
Yeah, gentle firing. Pete Carroll, who, 10 playoff appearances since 2010 with the Seahawks, matched the number of times the Seahawks had reached the postseason in all of their existence, 34 years of it prior to his tenure. And, of course, along the way, he got to 2 Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom, winning his coach in Seahawks history, and perhaps his most notable achievement, along with Barry Switzer, along with Jimmy Johnson, one of 3 head coaches ever to win both titles at the pro and collegiate levels. And he was emotional, super emotional, didn't seem like he really wanted to leave, said he was fired up, and so I think he's in play for another coaching job for sure. And I couldn't help but think as I'm watching this, or as the day went on, and then we learn about Nick Saban, and Alabama parting ways, I couldn't help but think, this is obviously not the same thing, but I couldn't help but thinking when Farrah Fawcett died in 2009, 12 hours later, Michael Jackson died, and no one ever talked about Farrah Fawcett dying ever again. By the way, whenever I bring this up, Chrissy sends me a text, Farrah Fawcett died. But this in the firing equivalent, or not the firing, but the parting of ways equivalent of NFL coaches or great college and pro coaches, just before we had enough time really to appreciate the career in Seattle of Pete Carroll, who, by the way, was sub 500 without Russell Wilson, it should be noted. Nick Saban, which wasn't as big of a surprise to me, and nor should it have been, I think, to anybody really, that Nick Saban decided that was enough for him at Alabama. 7 total national championships, 1 at LSU, 6 at Bama in the 17 seasons where he was at the helm at Bama. 6 national titles, 9 SEC titles, and unless you're a Bear Bryant guy and are a man of a certain age, certainly the greatest college coach, if not the greatest football coach any of us have ever seen. And it was very strange with Saban yesterday, at least if you hear the accounts of how it went down. He had thought about the decision carefully, but he had meetings, he was interviewing assistant coaches all day. He was annoyed at something. Then, he gathered his players around and he said to them that the way college football has changed in terms of the transfer portal and tampering, NIL being used as a guise for bidding for high school players and transfers. You and I had talked about this on a numbers game. We talked about it with Harbaugh too. Why would he ever come back with this new world after winning a national championship? And the recruiting calendar being extended. He said that this was the time. Chris Lowe at ESPN reporting that Saban had grown increasingly frustrated with, quote, what college football had turned into. He's all about team and building a team and developing players. Now the only thing that seems to matter is who can get what in the NIL and who can get the biggest deal, unquote. So Nick Saban, who just the storied career, by the way, John Ewing over there talking about how Saban 126 and 103 ATS per Bet Lab. Listen, they were such big favorites in so many of these games. That's why the ATS record is muted. But just utter domination again and bringing Alabama to the heights of college football. And now moving forward, it would just be that much more difficult. And Saban, obviously, sensing that and knowing that, will never get to see it deteriorate under his watch. Mm-hmm. And so he moves on. And I just want to also say, because whenever we bring up Nick Saban in the past, there is the narrative of how the Dolphins, when he was the head man of the Dolphins, so after LSU, before Alabama, he was the head coach of the Dolphins. And they were trying to acquire Drew Brees. And the Dolphins team doctor did not clear Drew Brees' shoulder. And so they ended up, the Dolphins did, trading for Dante Culpepper. And people look at that moment in time. And Nick Saban has sort of fed into it well, if we'd gotten Drew Brees, I would have been there forever. Nick Saban probably could have overrode the doctor. But that's that fulcrum moment where we think about that the future of both pro and college football changed forever. That moment when it ended up being Dante Culpepper instead of Drew Brees. And then this morning, Bill Belichick, by the way, Pete Carroll, 72 years old. Nick Saban, 72 years old. Bill Belichick, the baby of the bunch, 71 years old. And this we knew was coming too. We didn't know what day, but we thought it might. what they're describing as an amicable parting in New England. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. But Bill Belichick, 17 division titles in 24 seasons at the helm of the New England Patriots, 9 AFC championships, and of course 6 Super Bowl titles, 333 career victories, 14 shy of Don Shula's mark of 347. So Bill Belichick is wanting to break that and wanting to coach more. Adam Schefter, the first one to report this. But with the Pats, 224, 162, and 11 against the spread, 56.7% with Bill Belichick, 15, 7, and 2 in terms of exceeding season wins in their 24 seasons, in his 24 seasons at New England. Yes, 29 and 38 since Tom Brady. Field Yates puts it in great perspective. During Bill Belichick's 24-year run as the Pats head coach, the other 31 NFL franchises had a combined 213 head coaches.
It's insane. It's insane. And then you, take the Steelers out of there, too, right? Who had, 2 over this time, too.
The Steelers had 3 in history.
Yeah.
I think about Belichick, and you think about, what can you sort of talk about beyond the numbers themselves? And there's a couple things. One, when I used to work with Dr. Bob, at one point Bob had hired a pro football handicapper who was real good at what he did. But when it came to the Patriots games, his model would always come up with the opponent. Oh, we got to play the opponent. We got to play the opponent. Oh, here's another one. We got to play the opponent. And finally, I remember Bob, who's obviously a frequent guest on this show and my buddy, said to him, there might be something in your model that is not being captured about Bill Belichick and the Patriots, as he kept taking it on the chin week after week after week. And it was such a great case study of, you can't be that sacred to this model of yours. And, Bill Belichick is not captured in that. And what do we mean by that? If you think about all the times we come in for guessing lines each and every week of each and every NFL football season, and what do we talk about more than the guesses themselves or where the value is? We talk about all the coaching gaffes, all the coaching mistakes. And on the other side of that, who are the smart coaches? Well, we take all of this stuff for granted now, that Bill Belichick was the first guy to really seize upon. And this is why the guy's model didn't capture the things that Bill Belichick was doing. For instance, we all now take for granted the double dip at the end of the first half and at the beginning of the second half of football games. Well, Belichick was really the first guy that got that. He got that. He understood that he should defer on the coin toss. He understood that if he played the clock right at the end of the first half, he could, in essence, manufacture a double dip at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. There was also, things like rule quirks that had to be changed because of the way he manipulated them. Later, Mike Vrabel seized on them too. But remember, if the Patriots were up in a football game and if they were nursing a lead with north of 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes left in a football game, Belichick knew how to use the loophole of, we'll just keep taking delays of game with our punter and punt formation, and the game clock still goes. That is until the 5-minute mark. And so Belichick would increase his win probability with little things like that. And that, to me, beyond obviously him being on the Mount Rushmore of great head coaches in the National Football League, it's those things that affect our bets, that affect his ATS record, but really affect how we view, as gamblers, as we view football through the years, and now take for granted some of the things that he really innovated.
Yeah, for Belichick, the story you're talking about absolutely applies to me too. It's the greatness that Belichick did for so long. Of course, those are the first things that come to our mind. Really close behind him, though, Gill, is, oh my gosh, how many times I lost bets going up against this guy over the course of my betting career. It feels like every Super Bowl I think I was against them that they won. I feel like the one time I was on them was the Eagles one we were discussing yesterday when they lost. It's just incredible, and those are. We're obviously a sports betting network. We think about things that way, and there's a whole other career to put in perspective. But man, when there are guys like this that they'll always be in my head of how many times I lost bets just trying to go up against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and how dumb you feel afterward. It's incredible. This is what they've done over their careers.
Bill Belichick next team odds over at DraftKings. It is available. Nowhere is the short shot at plus 175. He'll go somewhere.
AK, not in the NFL.
Not in the NFL. He'll be somewhere, just not in the NFL.
Yeah, sure.
If you bet that one. Chargers are 2-1. Commodores are 4-1, and the Falcons are also 4-1. The field after that at 8-1. If you are reading as many articles as you can about the subject of Bill Belichick's departure and split with Robert Kraft in New England, while the names bantied about for the New England job are in no particular order, Gerard Mayo, who's on staff now, and Mike Vrabel, who obviously was just fired by the Titans, it's the Falcons that are the ones that are most rumored to be tied to Belichick. So that 4-1, if you buy into those reporting, if you buy into those, the reportage of it right now, Falcons 4-1 would be the shot. Arthur Blank took a shot in the past at both Joe Gibbs and Bill Parcells to no avail. Maybe the third time is the charm for Arthur Blank going for a big fish out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to be willing to pay. I think the question is, how much does that matter to Bill Belichick?
And I brought up the Cowboys this week earlier. If they lose this week, watch for Jerry Jones to take his shot.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.